reds and greens meet. That's where winds are flowing toward and away from the radar. And so the main area of rotation here is going to be traveling just south of I-94, likely crossing I-94 pretty close to the Kalamazoo, Calhoun County line. So South 44th Street, Mercury Drive, Watkins Road. If you're in the proximity of any of these roads, it's very close to you, likely on your doorstep. And if you are in the city of Battle Creek, especially the south side of Battle Creek over toward Lakeview, a little closer to, let's see, Beetle Lake, Sunrise Heights, the 194-94 interchange, you need to be heading to your tornado safe spot at this time as well. We've seen rotation continue to tighten with the storm once again. And as Alan mentioned, this has been a very unique storm, but it's certainly the fact that the reds and greens are meeting right here means that there is likely strong rotation within this storm that is tracking almost due east. And again, that has now prompted a second tornado warning that is in effect for northern Calhoun County, and that is in effect until 1 a.m., so for the next hour.
We're seeing a lot of lightning in our Kalamazoo cam. That's what you're seeing side by side with the radar as of now. And the storm structure continues to show the hook shape, which honestly is when the storm is positioned so that it can drag in warm, moist air and continue to thrive. So one of the reasons why we're seeing this storm in particular is the one that's had the worst rotation and the most promise, I should say, for producing severe weather is because of its position in relation to the line. Everyone else at this point in time is starting to see the severe threat lessen. Kalamazoo, the storm system is starting to move to the east of you into Galesburg, and this is what you're seeing is that massive light show as a result. Kalamazoo, the threat will probably be dropping off for you momentarily, but with the rotation south of Galesburg, we're watching for not only lightning, but a real threat of a tornado making it onto the ground.
Wow.
Latest scan actually just strengthened even more so.
That may be on the ground or close to it.
I wouldn't be surprised if on the north side of Climax at this point in time, we had a tornado touching down on the ground. This is south of I-94. This is on the northwest side of Climax. Luckily, it does not look like it's rolling into Climax itself at this point in time, but it is headed into Calhoun County.
Yeah, likely going to cross I-94 just past Columbia Avenue. And if you're on the south side of Battle Creek, now is the time to be heading to your tornado safe spot. Lakeview, the south side of Springfield, you can see several subdivisions in here. Oh, let's name some of them for you. Stone Jug Road, Columbia Avenue West, Gethings Road, Helmer Road, 24th Street, Renton Road, Linwood Drive, Watkins Road. If any of those sound familiar to you, if you are in the area of any of those, now's the time to be heading to your tornado safe spot. This rotation has continued to tighten up, and it is by far the tightest it has been so far tonight, and there is reason to believe that we may have a tornado on the ground. What we're going to look for next is what's called correlation coefficient, so debris tracking. And if we were to take a look at that here, it's hard to say with it being on the edge of the storm. At this time, we don't see any necessarily major sign of a tornado on the ground because that shade of dark blue is what would indicate debris. And the fact that it's continued to track on the south side means that that doesn't mean there's necessarily anything new. But the rotation in this storm is very tight. And again, if you are in the area of north side of Climax over toward the south side of Battle Creek, you need to be heading to your tornado spot now, as it looks like we may have a tornado in progress here based on the latest radar imagery as the storm continues to track almost directly into Battle Creek.
Battle Creek does need to be on guard at this point in time. It's moving at 45 miles per hour. That's pretty swift. So with that being said, it doesn't give you a lot of time to kind of get out of bed, gather your things, and head down to a safe spot. I would just go ahead and get out of bed and head to your safe spot. We're looking at various modes of the radar. This helps us tell you the most accurate information. So at times, it might not look like the classic setup that you're used to, but when we put something like the radar into wind tracker mode, it really helps to tell us where the rotation is maximized and where a tornado might be on the ground. Right now, you can see what the storm would look like on your classic radar. Everyone north of Hastings, you are absolutely in the clear. Everyone south of Hastings, you have a lot of lightning. And that one cell that's just tracked through Portage and is headed towards Climax continues to produce rotation and continues to produce the potential for a tornado. We had a tornado possible as the storm rolled through Portage. Now it looks like a tornado warning as the rotation is tightened up, as Blake mentioned. He helped to list some of the roads of people impacted. I wanted to show you this system in relation to Battle Creek. And at any time, the rotation might start to swing up to the south side of the city of Battle Creek. So Springfield Place, the airport, Lakeview, Sunrise Heights, even as far south as Old Mill Gardens, just on the north side of I-94. If you live around some of these places that I'm saying out loud, you need to get into your safe spot, lowest level of your home, at least a place without windows, a closet is a great spot, or a bathroom. We, at this point in time, are going to be waiting scan by scan to watch to see how this storm is going to continue to progress. This is tracking on the north side of West Leroy, and it's getting ready to exit Kalamazoo County and head into Calhoun. We still have this notch, which means it's perfect for taking warm air in, spinning it up and around the storm, and allowing cold air to surge down and around. Climax at this point in time, even if the tornadic circulation is to the north of you, you might be getting a big gust of wind called a rear flank downdraft as cold air wraps around and down. So again, Kalamazoo Skycam absolutely active as we look at the view of the storm just to the east. Just a few arrival times for you. Should be crossing over I-94 around 12:16, headed towards Old Mill Gardens, tracking south of Beetle Lake at 12:21, and then north close to Waddles Park, closer to about 12:20. So this is an active situation, absolutely. Blake?
Yeah, well, one note I want to make, one cautionary note, is that we had an instance with a tornado warning in Ionia County a few years ago where the rotation looked really strong in the storm. But what ended up happening was the radar was kind of tricking us. So we're trying to determine if that's maybe what's partially happening. There's no doubt in my mind that there is certainly some strong rotation with this storm. But the big question that I have, speaking candidly right now, is if this is perhaps being overdone by the radar. That's not to say you should be taking this storm lightly. If you are along I-94 in western Calhoun County, south side of Springfield, south side of Battle Creek, Lakeview, you need to be heading to your tornado spot now if you are not there already. The part that is concerning is just the curvature, the hook that this storm seems to have is certainly concerning as this velocity or the winds continue to indicate strong rotation with this storm. That's just one thing that's worth noting as we continue to track this storm.
Well, here's the thing. We're not hearing any damage reports.
Yeah.
And with a storm like this going over such a populated area, you would think that if something was touching down, if wind was able to actually reach the ground, we would be seeing damage reports coming in, and at the very least, some power outages. And right now, if we just check in on what's going on with the current outages,
Don't have any
I don't
in
think
that
we
area.
have any.
If we do, they do tend to be delayed reporting. So,
Yes.
if there are some, they may not begin to pop up for the next few minutes. And but by the way, if you have any reports that you can safely send us to weather@woodtv.com, please do so.
I'm also monitoring Facebook comments if people want to comment.
Yeah, Sarah Flynn, meteorologist Sarah Flynn, is also monitoring Facebook as well. So let's go back to graphics 1 if we can. We have a latest scan on this rotation as it is moving into the south side of Battle Creek. The part that worries me the most is seeing the amount of curvature in the storm, or the hook that's present within this line is certainly concerning. Here's a look at the latest scan from Wind Tracker, and you can see very strong rotation. Looks to be still ongoing, currently located on the south side of Springfield. So this would be pretty close to the south side of Columbia Avenue and Stone Jug Road. This is moving right into Lakeview and the south side of Battle Creek. In fact, if we step this back a little bit, and you can see it's basically moving east-northeast. So if you are essentially anywhere in Lakeview, Capitol Avenue, Southwest, Columbia Avenue, Arbor Street, 24th Street, you need to be heading to your tornado spot now. That is true for folks living along I-194 between Battle Creek and I-94, Sunrise Heights neighborhood. And again, I don't think Battle Creek's in the clear out of this at all, as this is beginning to track a little bit farther north. we have reason to believe that there may be a tornado that is ongoing, or if not very strong rotation. And if you are in any of these areas, you need to be in your tornado spot now.
With the storm being elevated, it helps us watch it carefully, but it doesn't mean that we're necessarily safe, as Blake said. Elevated storms can eventually reach down to the ground. In addition to this, again, we are using tools like our Storm Track Live, and with tools like Storm Track Live, they do have limits. So we want to make sure that we're taking everything into account, looking at 15 minutes to go with this tornado warning.
Goes till 1 a.m. for Calhoun County.
1 a.m. for Calhoun County.
So it's moved out of Kalamazoo County.
Right, that one will likely be expired, and that was the one till 12:30.
Correct.
Gotcha. So we were going on until 1 a.m. potentially with this tornado warning, unless the Storm Prediction Center and National Weather Service deem that it's so weak or so elevated that it doesn't have a chance of touching down. Still, the rotation is quite strong with this, just above the ground.
We've gotten some emails and some things in our chat, just on social media, and it does seem like the case is a lot of the higher winds are not reaching the surface.
Yeah, that looks like that
That is good news.
most recent email we got was Portage, which would have been a little while back, but it is encouraging. And again, it's so difficult at night, especially to get any sort of ground truth with this storm. So the best we could do is assume that this thing could potentially be on the ground, or at least exhibiting strong rotation. Good news is, with the most recent looks at rotation, it doesn't look to be quite as strong, but we are still seeing quite a signature there on the south side of Battle Creek that would suggest that a tornado is still possible with this storm.
Well, and this system did pulse several times. If we look at the history and take it back a full hour, even further than an hour back, an hour and a half, we had this cell come in off of Lake Michigan into the Benton Harbor area, and it produced this really tight rotation. So keeping it on rotation tracker and just showing you the timeline of this storm, you can see how tornado warnings followed this area of rotation through Lawton, eventually taking it through the Portage area, right over the heart of Portage, and now headed pretty close to Battle Creek. Now, you'll notice through this timeline how it's pulsed up and down in terms of rotation strength. And in addition to that, even when we've seen some of the stronger rotation, we have not heard a lot of wind reports, as Sarah and Blake have been saying. So that's upstream following the history of this storm. Tornadoes in February are absolutely possible, and they've happened in Niles and Dowagiac, Centerville before, actually back in just 2017. So it's not impossible for this to actually touch down to the ground. It's just we have to monitor the conditions pretty carefully. Now, looking at everyone else involved right now in West Michigan with this line of showers and storms, everyone else is in the clear. You can see a whole batch of rain is zipped off to the north. Muskegon on the north side, just some light to moderate rain at this point in time. Big Rapids, big downpours to the north. But the only portion of this storm system that remains of concern is the one with the tornado warning attached to it as it moves off to the east, headed towards Jackson. Marshall, I would also be on alert at this point in time. Would not be a bad idea for you to just keep in mind where your safe spot might be. This continues to move at about 45 miles per hour, and we headed over towards Marshall around 12:36, Marengo around 12:45, and then eventually exiting Calhoun County close to about 1 a.m. And of course, that's when the tornado warning expires for this area. In the wake of this system, we have a really strong cold front that's going to be moving in, and we have snow on our doorstep by tomorrow morning. So if we look at even just the last 2 hours and keep this view wide, you can see that the storms are only a small portion of this storm system in total.
We have a new storm report from Watkins and Stone Jug Road, so basically just south of where this rotation would have passed through, of hail of 1 inch to 1.25 inches, so quarter size or greater. But there's no indication of any wind-related damage, and the latest scan on radar, as it is essentially over the city of Battle Creek, shows that it's not quite as impressive as it once was. You'll notice those light shades of red and green. Then as we step through to the next scan, rotation perhaps is weakened, but still over the city of Battle Creek. So if you are in Battle Creek, the east side of Battle Creek, you should be in your tornado safe spot as a tornado warning does remain in effect. But that is encouraging to not, so far, hear of any substantial wind or perhaps tornado-related damage from this storm in particular in either Kalamazoo or Calhoun counties. And again, we are still seeing some rotation, but as we talked about earlier, the big question was how much of this was elevated up in the atmosphere, not making it to the ground. We need to continue to treat the storm seriously. All of northern Calhoun County does have a tornado warning. So if you are in Battle Creek, remaining your tornado safe spot as we head a little bit farther east over toward Verona Road, J Drive North, L Drive North, you should probably consider heading to your tornado spot pretty soon. But we have no ground reports, which of course is great news. However, even with that, this radar imagery is concerning enough to make us continue to tell you that there's certainly the potential for a spin-up tornado that remains with this storm.
Still no reports coming in. It's very, very quiet.
Yeah, and I'm hearing from some folks in the Portage area saying their trees didn't even sway. Again, that's just further confirmation that these storms are elevated. And again, these are pretty far from the actual radar site in Grand Rapids, so we just kind of have to treat them as what they are on the radar, is just an indication of what could be happening. So all in all, right now it looks like center of rotation still tracking on the east side of Battle Creek. And because this is tornado warned, we are going to continue to stay with the storm. It's irresponsible to cut out too early with this type of rotation ongoing. However, it looks like no damage is happening at this time. And if this system begins to clear the Battle Creek area without producing any damage, we might be back into just standby mode. We're watching scan by scan to see if rotation tightens again. Because quite honestly, we've gotten some pretty strong scans of rotation here. And even at the strongest scans, we were not seeing any damage mixing down to the ground, which is a great sign.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the storm in terms of structure, from the way it looks on radar, is pretty classic, and that's what makes this storm so concerning. As you mentioned, though, the fact that we don't have any ground truth at this time is great news. Again, the center of rotation is actually basically right over Battle Creek. Looks like we have a new scan now, which continues to show that there is still some rotation present, but not anything quite as concerning as what we saw earlier with those really light shades of red and green and blue. What we're now seeing as they're becoming darker, more dull, which means their rotation is likely weakening as the storm continues to track eastward. Still capable of perhaps producing a spin-up tornado, but the fact that, again, we have not seen any ground truth out of this, and that we haven't heard anything from so far, and have not seen any power outages, would suggest that thankfully this storm may be remaining above ground and not reaching the surface at this time.
Looking at current temperatures across the board too, we're starting to see some of the temps drop where we had rain. Not surprisingly, South Haven has dipped to 52, Allegan 54. Battle Creek is still sitting at about 59 degrees, and that's pretty mild for this time of year. And it's helping to keep some of these showers and storms thriving as they track to the east side of the state. We technically have a severe thunderstorm watch that is going to be ongoing for most of Michigan until 5 a.m. But I would not be surprised if the Storm Prediction Center starts to drop a lot of the West Michigan counties here shortly, just because there's nothing really in the wake of the storm system that we're seeing now in terms of severity. The biggest thing that we're going to be watching now is for a big temperature drop. So tomorrow morning, we're going to be seeing our temps plummeting. We'll see wind chills dropping to the teens by 3 p.m. on Wednesday, winds gusting to 40. And I think it's going to be kind of a tricky commute for quite a few folks across West Michigan because of this flash freeze that we're getting ready to expect. Now, in general, looking at the radar locally, this is our high definition radar, and putting it into play here, and see how the warnings have tapered off, just following that last little tail as we track through the northern fringe of Calhoun County. And again, luckily, not seeing too many storm reports at all. In fact, I don't know if we had more than a handful of hail reports.
We just had a new one of golf ball size hail at Maine and Columbia on the south side of Battle Creek.
Okay.
So if anything, this tornado warrant storm is cranking out some pretty decent hail at least across parts of Calhoun County, because we have another report at Watkins and Stone Judd of hail greater than 1 inch in diameter. So at the very least, this is likely producing some large hail. Thankfully, not hearing any immediate reports of a tornado on the ground.
Yeah, actually, if we turn on the hail mode, you can see how the hail reports pepper in as the storms swing through the Battle Creek area. And at times, you can see how it just, it forms and it dissipates. So the hail cores have not been as consistent as we've seen with past storms, where it follows a single storm and it lays down almost like a hail stripe. This really has been hit or miss pockets of hail, ranging from pea size to, as Blake just mentioned, golf ball size hail, the latest report and the biggest of the evening.
Looks like the tornado warning has just been trimmed. A few small hailstones still possible, but the main area of rotation has cleared Battle Creek and is now moving almost due east, again, toward the vicinity of I-69 here over the next several minutes. And again, the fact that we continue to lack any sort of ground truth to any potential tornado or damaging winds is great news, and that the greatest threat with the storm would be hail and perhaps a few strong wind gusts. We do have another report coming in of 1 inch hail at 8.5 and D Drive North in Battle Creek. So let's see if we can find that here. D Drive, F Drive, E Drive. Okay, here we go. D Drive and 8.5 road. So somewhere likely probably in here is where we have the report of 1 inch size hail. So you get the idea. Several reports now coming in of hail quarter size or larger from the main part of this storm. And notice the high reflectivities back here toward Springfield that may also indicate another hail core that could be moving through. And there it is on radar. We could get another round of hail on the south side of Battle Creek here in the next few minutes.
I think that's a great point. Springfield Place, Lakeview, Sunrise Heights, likely more of a threat of hail than the tornado threat at this point in time, not only because the tornado warning has been trimmed, but that's a pretty decent reflectivity boost. And when we've been seeing reflectivities in that dark purple range, it has been enough to produce at least some hail. Although hail reports have been pretty sparse in general, aside from the city of Battle Creek. Looks like in general, most of the hail reports have come from this storm that was tornado warned for so long.
Yeah.
Still a lot of lightning. A lot of times when we have cold season thunderstorms, we get a lot of lightning. And that just has to do with the hail count aloft.
I won't be surprised if this part of the storm produces some more hail over Climax, perhaps, against south side of Springfield. Those are pretty high reflectivity.
There's a special weather
Values that
statement
we're
on
seeing.
that there is.
Okay.
likely going to be hail.
Yeah, it looks like hail potential is certainly still there as a storm tracks eastward. Again, we do still have the tornado warning. If you are in the northern part of Calhoun County, especially now east of Battle Creek, you're likely still hearing the tornado sirens. And there is still some rotation with this storm, but the farther this goes on and we don't receive any reports, the more likely it is that we have not seen a tornado touchdown, which of course is great news because as those radar scans were coming in initially, it definitely looked pretty concerning pretty early on.
Changing the view a bit and just looking at the storm structure, sometimes it's good to see how far moisture is lofted. And at times, the radar is indicating that potentially the moisture could be lofted as high as 60,000 feet. Freezing level was estimated to be less than 10,000 feet with these showers and storms this evening. So that's a perfect recipe for hailstones. Battle Creek, both sides of Battle Creek having to watch for the potential of hail at this point in time. I'm going to do a fresh slice here. This is going to take it on the south side of Battle Creek. We're going to take it down 3D level just to see. And again, we're seeing some indications of moisture making it up to about 10,000 feet. So long story short, small hail is possible. Hail the size of quarters, also possible through the Battle Creek area. In general, this storm is moving at about 45 miles per hour, so quite quickly. And I think in the latest scan here, we're still seeing some elevated rotation. but it's starting to get stretched again, as can happen. So stopping in at the latest scan, looks like the strongest rotation is about to track on the north side of Marshall. This is going to be cutting just on the north side of the intersection of I-94 and I-69. No damage reported with this. We're still not seeing any power outages. Again, a very good sign. The rotation will be passing over unsuspected drivers at about 12:31. Hopefully anybody on I-69 or I-94 noticed that there was a tornado warning and has taken the proper precautions, pulled off the road, found a safe spot. When it comes to storms, they really can change moment by moment. Sometimes storms that are initially elevated can touch down. Sometimes we can see them change directions. And it's always really difficult when it happens at night.
There is a few power outages near Kalamazoo.
Few power outages in the Kalamazoo area.
Is it on the north side of Kalamazoo?
Yeah, it's likely from that initial storm.
Southeast side.
They're starting to pop on the southeast side?
Yeah, there's one that has about
Okay.
750 customers. But
I think that was initially reported at 10, or right around 11,
oh, you're right.
which probably would have put it before.
Or the tornado.
Yeah, which is good news.
Yeah.
I think, to be honest with you, I think at this time, hail's probably the greatest threat with this.
I agree.
We have another report of 1-inch hail coming in on the east side of Battle Creek. And all these areas where you see the reflectivity values on radar and the shades of pink, even toward gray and black, that's the indication that there's certainly potential for some large hail. And that was one of the greatest threats with this storm system tonight, as Ellen talked about. So as you see the hail tracker there, there's a good chance that there's some pretty good hail probably going on south side of Battle Creek.
Yeah.
Along I-94, heading toward Morgan Corners, Old Mill Gardens, and we're starting to get some more reports of large hail coming in now.
Walnut Point, looks like you could be seeing a hail shower soon. This is P Drive North, 14-mile road, North Drive North, 16-mile road, all through the Walnut Point area, and then as Blake just mentioned, south of Battle Creek into Sunrise Heights, Old Mill Gardens, likely hearing some hail on your rooftop. If you're paying attention to where the tornado warning is, it has been trimmed so that it could follow the progression of the storm to the east. And as of now, it looks like the storm structure to me is a little less pronounced in terms of the reflectivity, although we're still seeing a decent amount of winds from the rotation tracker. I just looked at base velocity to try to confirm. And granted, we're sampling the storm from a pretty far distance, but the rotation is nothing to snuff at, but it's not the strongest we've seen this evening.
Yeah.
Not to mention the circulation is incredibly broad. We're seeing space between the red and greens. We're not seeing individual pixels that are close up next to each other, and we're not seeing some of those really bright values right next to each other. So this looks like just a general supercell to me at this point in time.
It is certainly better aloft the rotation. If you continue to tilt, but
Kalamazoo has been dropped from the tornado warning. It is now only for northern Calhoun County. And the main axis of rotation here, about to cross over I-69, heading, continuing to head east, eventually into Jackson County here, probably in the next 20 minutes or so. Again, what we're getting now is a lot of hail reports. We have a report of a golf ball size hail 6 minutes ago near Brownlee Park in Calhoun County, which is pretty substantial hail size. And we continue to see an indication, at least based on our radar hail tracker, that the hail potential remains, especially in the southern flank of this storm. Currently passing over, or I guess along I-94 in the south side of Battle Creek. Tornadic threat remains here right along I-69, just north of I-94, about to cross over. But I think at this point we can continue to say that that hail remains the greatest threat with this storm.
Here's something that's wild. If you look at the cloud deck, there's potentially some pretty significant clearing in the wake of this batch of showers and storms.
Oh.
And it's not until we see the cold air pour in around 2 a.m. that we'll start to see more clouds generated over Lake Michigan. So looking here at graphics 3 You can see what we're talking about with the cloud deck. And you can see how we have one lone tornado-warned storm at this point in time. Blake has it
Yeah.
here on
Yeah, I can pull up
graphics
the,
one. It's okay.
Which one did you have up? Here we go. You can see how quickly the clouds are clearing.
Yeah, which is incredible.
Yeah, Lakeshore already under clear skies. Kalamazoo
Yes.
clearing out
Yeah.
quickly.
My gosh, what a day. We hit record-breaking temperatures, not just for today, but for the entire month of February. All locations completely smashed the old warmest high temperatures for the month of February. We had never hit 70 before in Grand Rapids in the month of February, and today we hit 73. Showers and storms pushing through now, and in the next 30 minutes, they're going to be out of our area completely. Looking at the lightning tracker, it's few and far between. We're only really seeing lightning continuing with this cell that's passing through Battle Creek and on the east side of Battle Creek, north of Marshall, and then a few strokes up near Lansing and over towards Plymouth, Michigan.
Greatest hail threat now over the next few minutes is probably just north of Lakeview Square Mall. I believe that's the name of it right here. And that is near the Old Mill Gardens area, 194 and 94, where those two meet. Is just north of that is likely the greatest hail threat here over the next few minutes. But as you mentioned, the lightning count looks to be down a bit, which is good news, and that means the storm may be in its beginning stages of weakening.
Still looking at the rotation as well, and it's clipping along, still producing decent elevated rotation, even though the rotation is broad, it's present. And you'll notice a new surge of lightning with the center of rotation as it's tracked on the east side of Walnut Point. This is headed towards Duck Lake, Albion Landing, Rice Creek, Partello, Lee Center. Fresh lightning means potentially a resurgence of hail. And if we had confirmation of this storm actually making it to the grounds with the rotation, this would have been a big concern to me.
Oh gosh, yeah.
But the fact that we have yet to see any damage from this, to be honest, strong rotation aloft, has me thinking that instead this resurgence of lightning means a fresh burst of hail. Walnut Point, especially in the north side of Walnut Point, likely seeing some hail around 17 Mile Road. This will potentially just kind of hail itself out and then pop back in. We're also still watching that hail core south of Battle Creek, as Blake was mentioning. But really, truly, if we look within the storm, those are the two centers that we're watching for potential damage with this. And everything else that's being picked up by reflectivity is falling as just plain rain. Not seeing a lot of winds with this either.
We're hearing from a few folks. We got one email from a viewer who said it was hailing for almost 30 minutes in Battle Creek. And we're getting another report now of lots of hail in Battle Creek, is what Katie is saying on X. So there's little doubt that there may be some hail damage with several reports of up to golf ball size in the Battle Creek area. And so even though it doesn't appear as though we experience a tornado in Battle Creek, at least early indications, there may be some hail damage from the large hailstones that appear to have fallen and for an extended period of time as well.
This just in from Calhoun County Emergency Manager. 1-inch hailstone, Jug and Carver Road in Battle Creek. We have another 1-inch hailstone that has been recorded, some 3/4-inch hail. Hail that's 1 inch in size or greater is considered severe. And that's usually, gosh, sorry, just keep looking at that rotation. And honestly, if this was any other day and that storm was able to reach to the ground, that would have made my heart skip a beat.
Well,
but
it's still concerning. It's just there was some sort of damage that was confirmed in Lawton from where this storm essentially was close to beginning. It remains to be seen whether that was caused from a tornado touchdown or from straight line winds. I'm sure the Weather Service will probably be out examining that tomorrow or today. But since then, it seems as though this thing has just struggled to create any sort of tornadic activity, even though it certainly looks like it on radar. And again, as we've been talking about, this storm is so far away from the radar that indicating really strong rotation high up in the storm or higher up, but we're not getting necessarily a great picture of what's happening right at the surface,
Yeah.
which is obviously the most important part.
Like 10 minutes ago, this storm had pretty broad, weak rotation. And then after passing I-69, we're starting to see pockets of decent rotation aloft.
Yeah.
So again, one of the reasons why our friends at the National Weather Service likely not expiring this tornado warning early, because we are seeing some rotation still hovering just above the surface at about 3,000 feet over 19 Mile Road, L Drive North, headed towards M Drive North,
Rice
But-
Creek area.
Rice Creek. But this will just continue to pulse in and out, I'm assuming, as it tracks across the rest of Michigan through the
Yeah.
rest of the night, following the warm air to the east.
The storm's track would take it to the south side of Springport, probably fairly close to Spring Arbor University, and then it will continue tracking into Jackson County from there. Again, there's really no sign of this thing weakening.
No.
It's maintained its strength now for a long time. And again, any other instance, we would be a lot more concerned, I think. Not to say there isn't still some concern with the storm, but the fact that we have no ground truth of any sort of oh, goodness. Okay, so if we update the Battle Creek outages, there are a lot of power outages on the east side, which indicates a potential for strong winds or a potential tornado on either side of I-69.
Oh, yep.
So I think at this point, we
This
have
is
to treat
actually
this
right through
as
Walnut Point.
we have to treat this as a potential tornadic situation now that we may be seeing this tighten up.
See, and this is exactly what we're talking about, how something can be elevated for literally 2 hours.
There you see it.
And then in a moment, in a scan, it can touch down. This is the same storm that tracked over Portage. This is moving towards the Rice Creek area as we speak. And again, as Blake just mentioned, now that we're seeing confirmed damage on the ground, power outages from Walnut Point, we are going to start treating this as if it is a tornado that is mixing down to the ground.
Latest scan is a bit more encouraging. It looks like the rotation isn't quite as pronounced as it was just a few minutes ago.
Gosh, yeah, it's really going scan by scan.
Kind of spread out again into two main areas. Where we're seeing the outages is essentially right in here, centered on I-69, again, right over Walnut Point. And now we've seen it split into two main areas. Not to say it couldn't tighten back up again as it continues to track toward Jackson County, but I'd say there's a non-zero chance that we saw that tornado mix down to the ground, at least for a brief time, based on the power outages that we're seeing.
I would say right now that the rotation, go ahead.
We're getting a report of a tornado on the ground near Marshall.
I was gonna say, if you guys look back at the correlation coefficient, you can see maybe around like 1230-ish, 1235, 1240 even.
19 Mile and L Drive. I'm going to try to zoom in right there. Yeah, wow. Okay, so this thing passed over 19 Mile and L Drive at 12:37, which would have been 3 minutes ago. And now the center of rotation is located near M Drive and what's the cross street here? 21.5 Mile Road. This will continue tracking toward 23 Mile Road, 24 Mile Road, North Drive North, Hatch Road, 26 Mile Road. If this thing is still producing a tornado, it is heading toward the north side of Rice Creek and again continuing toward those streets.
I think there's debris, especially, or there was at one point.
Yeah,
Look
wow.
past Weiss Creek. Yeah, there you go. Right there.
So if we step this back a few frames, it looks like debris is now being picked. We have a confirmed tornado warning now for the eastern side of Calhoun County from that report from the emergency manager.
It is moving fast, that's good news.
Yeah, this thing will be out of Calhoun County pretty shortly, but where we have this area of blue, again, just to the west of Rice Creek, indicates that there's likely some sort of debris being picked up, either trees, perhaps pieces of structures. We have yet to be seen, remains to be seen, but again, confirmed tornado warning. And that is because of that, looked like it all kind of happened at once. A quick flare up in power outages, a confirmed report from a spotter, and all indications are that this tornado is on the ground right now.
So headed towards Rice Creek. This is M Drive North,
It might even be
North Drive North. Say that again, Sarah.
I said it might even be over Rice Creek right now. It's moving
Yeah.
quick.
Yeah, it's moving at probably about 45 miles per hour at this point in time. I'm still seeing, I don't know about you guys, newest scan, right over the east side of Rice Creek, headed towards 24 Mile Road. O Drive North, M Drive North. If this is you, be sure to head to your safe spot now.
Center of rotation is going to be heading right toward Albion Landing, Charlotte Landing, or Charlotte Landing, perhaps.
Yeah, it's
Duck
looking
Lake.
up to the northeast quite quickly. Getting a few more hail reports, too, from the Battle Creek area.
If you are in Eaton County and know anyone in Springport, now's the time to let them know it's time to head to their safe spot. I imagine we'll probably get a tornado warning extended over to Jackson County here pretty soon.
And you'll
Law
notice-
enforcement
go
confirming a
ahead.
tornado at 26 Mile and F Drive North.
26 Mile F Drive North. This is headed towards Duck Lake, Albion Landing, Charlotte Landing, South Drive North. Tornado on the ground. You need to get into your safe spot. This is on the north side of Rice Creek, actually headed more towards the Springport area and Duck Lake itself. A tornado could be passing right over houses on Monroe Road, over near 27.5 Mile Road. The purple warning box that you're seeing means that a tornado has been confirmed and it potentially could still be on the ground. A lot of lightning with this, showing that it's still maintaining its strength as it pushed through the Rice Creek area, potentially picking up debris. Debris might still be flying around. I'm going to switch to correlation coefficient and just see if we can see debris, but it's
weaker.
yeah, it's dispersed at this point in time. Still, this storm has been pulsing the entire time. At times it weakens, at times it strengthens. So Duck Lake, Charlotte Landing, Albion Landing, Springport at this point in time, take cover now. It's moving quickly at about 45 miles per hour, which means you don't really have a lot of time to get to your safe spot if you're not already there.
Yeah, I do owe a correction. That's not heading towards Spring Arbor University. That is further to the south. It is heading towards Springport, as it's likely about to cross over into Jackson County here in the next few minutes. Rotation's still there. Signature not quite as strong as it was. It looks like it may be what we call decoupling, or essentially kind of breaking apart, at least as of now. We have not seen any new power outages extend past Rice Creek.
No.
Which means
Yeah.
that the tornado may have lifted, perhaps, although we are still hearing from law enforcement sources 26 Mile and F Drive North, which if we were to zoom in on that and get you a visual, 26 Mile, I mean, they're still seeing it right here. Right here, and the center of rotation is up here. So, I mean, there's a good chance that this thing is still either producing a funnel cloud, a wall cloud close to the ground, or perhaps a tornado on the ground. And now the latest scan has this thing about to clear Calhoun County to move into Jackson County, south side of Albion Landing. There's the area of rotation right there, just to the east of Albion Landing. And this thing is heading into Springport. So if you know anybody in the town of Springport, I know it's a small town, but now's the time to be letting them know that there is a potential tornado moving in their direction here over the next minute or two.
The way it looks, it likely will start off with rain. You're not going to see it. It doesn't seem like it would be very, just maybe it is leading edge now.
Still,
though,
the
don't go outside and look for it. You're not gonna see
Debris,
it.
yeah, debris is a signature on this, at least associated with the tornado or likely associated with the tornado, is weaker, but still present. The interesting thing is that it's located south of the main axis of rotation.
Yeah, lightning and hail is likely on the north side of the axis of rotation. So you can see on the classic reflectivity mode, basically where all the lightning strikes are, that's where you could be seeing some large hail, golf ball size hail reported in Battle Creek as well from the same cell. So we've got two threats here, the potential for a spin up tornado and also the potential for some golf ball size hail with this storm system that's moving at about 45 miles per hour. Albion Landing, Charlotte Landing, Duck Lake, Rice Creek, everyone that we just mentioned there, you're within two boundaries of threats. So best to stay safe and inside, away from windows. Winds can produce from a tornado cell, like strong enough winds to down some trees. And go ahead.
This is heading out of our viewing area, but we
Yeah.
do now have a confirmed tornado warning that has been extended into northern Jackson and far southern Ingham counties, Onondaga, Springport, over toward US 127, crossing over essentially between Lansing and Jackson. Now north of I-94, this thing will be heading over into our sister station WLNS's viewing area, channel 6. Of all reports are that this tornado is still confirmed. The Debris on this is not as pronounced as it was, which of course is good news. It means that the tornado may have lifted, but all indications are that this continues to be a dangerous storm that is now about to move out of Calhoun County here in the next 3 to 4 minutes or so and move into Jackson and Ingham counties.
Rotation is temporarily weakening, but we have watched it do this in the past. Very wise in the National Weather Service to continue this tornado warning forward to the east with this fast-moving storm, as at any time we could see this tornado potentially touch down again. And the track record of this storm went right over places like Lawton, the heart of Portage, cut across Battle Creek, and then just finally looked to produce a tornado in the Rice Creek area near Walnut Point. So we will have crews on scene tomorrow to look at damage, to see if we can confirm a brief tornado touchdown.
Ellen, we got really lucky that this storm did not cycle over Battle Creek.
Oh my goodness, or Portage,
or Portage.
Lawton.
And it
Now-
seems like it's
matter.
weakened again. It just goes back and forth. It probably will be, if there is a tornado track, a very sporadic one.
Of course, we never want tornado to hit anywhere, but we become especially concerned over major population centers. And as of 30 minutes ago, it looked like Battle Creek was potentially going to be impacted. Unfortunately, it looks like we did have the tornado touch down, which confirms just how dangerous the storm has continued to be. However, it touched down in a relatively rural area in northeast Calhoun County over toward Rice Creek with confirmation from law enforcement sources. And again, now this storm is a confirmed tornado warning heading into northern Jackson and southern Ingham counties over toward US 127. And let's take a look at the latest wind scan here. And it has essentially moved out of Calhoun County, now crossing into far northwestern Jackson County. Springport area is where the axis of rotation is now. And you can see it there. This thing is essentially right over the town of Springport, or the north side of it, heading almost due east. So I think we're pretty much good to give the all clear here in West Michigan.
I think we are too. Technically, the tornado warning expires for Calhoun County in the next 10 minutes, but this storm has moved out, as
Yeah.
Blake just mentioned. So we encourage you, if you're in this viewing area, to continue with our sister station where your signal is likely better on the south side of Lansing. So glad that you guys were able to stay safe and stay with us tonight. As Blake mentioned, so glad that this storm did not touch down through the entirety of its track across many populated areas. For those of you that have been impacted around the Walnut Point area, please be careful as you go out to survey damage. And I would wait until the daylight hours to watch for power lines. They can be very difficult for this time of year, especially to spot. So wait for daylight, make sure to call authorities. We do have some power outages in the area.
Same is true in the Lawton area in Van Buren County as well.
Right.
Looks like we do have some reports of for the same storm, of some wires down and trees down. So be careful in that part of Van Buren County as well.
For now, I do feel comfortable turning this back over to your regularly scheduled programming. Thank you all for staying with us tonight and staying safe. We take this stuff very seriously. And this is a perfect example to show you how a storm can be tracking through West Michigan and only touch down a couple of times within a 2-hour span. It just goes to show you how wild the weather in West Michigan can be. Tomorrow's going to be just as wild.
Yeah.
We'll be in, all three of us, tomorrow to watch that. The snow, the slick roads, the winds gusting to 40. And we will continue to keep you safe during that event too. But thank you guys for staying with us. Continue to stay safe.